Well, Saturday it's going to be a matchup of the two top scoring offenses in the Big East. How do you foresee this game kind of shaking out? I mean, is it going to be an up and down type deal? Is that what you want to try to avoid with those guys?
Well, I think you have to play with intelligence. I think they're a different team at home than they are on the road. They're averaging 87.5 possessions at home and 79.5 on the road. And there's always going to be a little bit of a disparity, home or away, but that's a large disparity. They're a really good team at home, and they want to play fast. You know, they're gonna shoot 90% of their shots 2 passes or less, whether that be in the full court or the half court. So I know we're a high-scoring team, and I think that we are a team that can score a lot of points, but I think that you have to have intelligence, and you got to make sure that you get a shot every possession. Because if you're turning the ball over at a high rate, obviously that feeds into what they want to do, particularly if they're in a zone. You know, if they're in a zone and you turn it over, it's for sure a layup or a dunk on the other end. And so, you know, they're a different team than they were last year, completely different. They're playing 11 guys, 12 guys, and they've got 2 really good players that are hurt. So they want to play fast and they want to junk it up defensively in hopes that you'll hurry up and shoot. So we just have to be intelligent in how we attack it and how we handle it.
What's been the biggest difference for you guys offensively this year as opposed to last year? Kind of a general question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think last year we kind of knew who was going to shoot, and what made us good was we knew who was going to shoot and when they were going to shoot. And I think what's happened as this team has evolved is our guys understand a good shot. Well, we've probably got more guys from top to bottom that can score. And so I think that helps our offensive rebounding percentages because we've got more guys that can score, and we all understand when a good shot is, what a good shot is. So that gives us more opportunities to get more possessions. So we are scoring at a high rate, and points per possession we're really good. But some of that points per possession is because we're getting offensive rebounds, which we didn't do a great job of last year.
Buzz, for camera purposes, can you just take one step away from the wall?
There,
Okay.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
There's something weird going on back there. Some glare or something.
All right.
As far as shooting goes, a couple of guys, I think it was Dwight as well as I think Jay, talked about how they had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They'd heard stuff in the preseason about, oh, this team can't shoot. Is that motivational for the guys, just the way you guys have played lately?
It's just the truth. They can't shoot.
It looked like they could shoot.
I mean, where they read it or where they heard it, I don't know. I think by and large our team, our individuals on our team, they all have a chip, and whether or not that's a truth or a myth or manufactured in some sort of way, that's just kind of how they are, and that's kind of how we work. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Can we shoot the ball better than we did earlier in the year? Yes. Can we continue to shoot the ball the way that we have over the last 4 or 5 games? I don't know. I would say that the truth is probably somewhere in between. I think that Jay can shoot, but part of why he can shoot is he knows when to shoot. And I think that's what's happened with Bikes from his junior year to his senior year is relative to how we play, he understands when he's supposed to shoot. And sometimes last year he probably didn't, and that's more my fault than it is his. But we got some guys that can shoot, but I don't know that when you would, if you could steal a scouting report from an opponent, I don't know that shooter would ever be in the report or the evaluation of any of our guys. Maybe Jay, because it's going to talk about he shoots trail threes. But when we have 10 toes to the rim and we know it's good rhythm and good space, we're okay.
Does this team have to play on tilt to be ultimately successful?
Does it have to what?
Play on tilt. Does it have to play on edge, with an edge? Do you have to coach them that way for them to be successful? Can they ever play cool, or they can't play that way?
No, I think they could play cool if they played for a different coach. They don't play for a cool coach. They play for a country kid that grew up in a trailer house. And so that's kind of the edge I coach with, but that's also the edge I live with. And not being negative, my children aren't growing up the way I grew up. So are they going to have the edge that I have? I don't know. I can't answer that. But in recruiting, I have that edge whether I'm in Caston or not. And so, as you build relationships with people, they kind of get a feel for that edge and whether or not that edge is something that they like or they mimic or they identify with. We've recruited a lot of good players, some of which never even visit here because they realize what it's about, and that's not necessarily for them. And that's not saying that our way is best. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just I'm very open and transparent in this is how we work and this is our culture, and this doesn't necessarily mean it's for you. And no matter how many stars are by your name or what you were ranked according to the guy that lives in the basement with his mom, that has no bearing once you get in Caston. That stuff is kind of peeled away. And so, no, to answer your question more succinctly, I don't think that we're cool, and I don't think that we work like we're cool either. And so when our private work becomes public work, it's one and the same. Our execution may be different, but how we roll, as our guys say, that's just how we roll. And we like to eat Chick-fil-A and drink sweet tea and dip snuff. And some of the words I use in Caston wouldn't necessarily be the words that would be the right words to use in public, but that's just that's the ambiance of what we do.
Coach Petito is one of the guys that when you think about college basketball as a pillar, it's well documented that you reached out to a lot of different coaches, wrote letters, asked for advice. Is he one of those guys? And did
no,
he ever respond?
I never. He is one of those guys. He's one of the. I would like you ought to do this, Todd. What percentage of college head coaches in the course of their career were in the Hall of Fame as they were still coaching? Not, obviously, Jim Calhoun is.
Got 3 in this conference.
Jim
right?
Boeheim
Calhoun,
is.
Boeheim, and Patino's going.
And Patino is going to be the third one. That's what I was going to say. But he was never anybody that I met, and I never got a chance to work any of his camps. So I never met him until the first game we played him at Freedom Hall. Got beat by 4, and Mo Acker was the point for 39 minutes in the first game after Neek broke his foot. That was the first time I'd ever met him. So, but he will be a Hall of Famer, and he'll still be coaching, which is incredible to me.
Last week, DJO made reference to this team finding its identity or starting to. Do you think the team has, and what do you think that identity has become over this season?
Yeah, I think that I do think that they have a quiet confidence about who they are as people, and I think that confidence is beginning to have somewhat of a groundswell as a team. It was hard to ever get in a rhythm in the fall. Part of that is because of how I coach. It's going to be the same thing every year. Drama, manufactured drama, and then things kind of settle themselves out. We're somewhat slow to develop offensively because of how we coach and because of how we work every day. But missing Bikes on 2 different occasions, missing Joe, the number of games he missed, Devontae, who came on like gangbusters and then got hurt. We could never get in a rhythm. Part of that was my fault. Part of that was just the hand we were dealt. Reggie left, so it seems like there's always something in the first semester. And I think that's okay, even though you guys don't necessarily or our fans don't. If it grows you and trends you in the right direction so that when you wake up on Christmas morning, you know where you're headed by Valentine's Day, then I think you're going in the right direction. And I think that's what's happening with our team. The problem with that is it's everybody, all the coaches in our league say that this is the best league in the country. And nobody ever asked me that because most people don't know I'm employed in this league. But it's not the best league. It's the best 2 leagues in the country. There's 16 teams in our league, split it however you want, legends and leaders or whatever they're calling that stuff. Figure it out, split it. It's the best 2 leagues in the country. We're still better than the next best league. And so even if you know your identity and even if you're confident in your identity, it can get taken away from you really, really fast. And it's hard to keep, and it's hard to have an edge, like he said. And that's why you just got to keep day to day doing what it is that you do.
That being said, Buzz, are you still at the point where you find it amusing that people, maybe outside of Milwaukee, we know you well enough, but outside of Milwaukee, are shocked that Marquette is 3-1 in the Big East? Is that still amusing to you?
Yeah, I don't. No, when you look at the quality of coaches and the quality of teams, we didn't win any of the games that would have helped ourselves in the fall. So why would anybody say anything? And then when you look at what we've done in the 4 games, 2 of them have been on the road and 2 of them have been at home. So I would anticipate that it would be like last year or the year before. We were supposed to win in year number 1. We weren't supposed to win in year number 2. And nobody knows who our guys are in year number 3. And so it's just kind of the state of where we're at. And I don't necessarily help that. I try to be a good guy, but I'm a much better guy to be around when I know you than if I don't know you. And because I decline more requests to be interviewed than I accept, it just kind of just sits out there, until we play and we win and we go, oh, wow, maybe they're okay. And because I'm not a great political advocate of what we do or how we do it, it kind of dissipates. And so we just show up on the game day, and if we win, it's a surprise. And if we lose, depending upon who we played, then that may be a surprise or it may not. And so I don't know what the right answer to that is, to be honest with you. This is my 3rd year here. It's my 1,010th day. I've always told the truth. I feel like I've been accountable for what we've been and who we've been. It's not necessarily always what everybody would want, but I think the experience that our guys take from here will serve them well in their life. And that's what I'm consumed with, and that's all I care about. Relative to how many people show up for media availability, it has no bearing on how we work.
I just want to follow up briefly on this. Do you think eventually that teams will come to you and when they plan for Marquette, that they'll say, DJO thought the comment would be they're going to be a hard-working team, they're going to just be scrappy, and that's how they're going to either beat us or lose to us based on how scrappy they are. Is that kind of...
That's how we eat. Hungriest dog eats first. So whatever words you would use to describe that, I've got the kind of dog you would think I have. A little bitty dog that you buy on the internet and they ship on a plane, and you feed it organic food and it eats out of a silver tin water cup. But that's not who I am. That's who I want my family to be. You know what I mean? But in my heart and as a human being, I think hungriest dog eats first. And I think that's how we work. That does not mean that we win. And I think that's where things get kind of out of whack. DJO has grown as a human being in the time that he's been here more than any other player as a person. And for him to tell you, hey, we play hard and we're scrappy and we get after it, that's because of the repetitive nature of what he's been through and what he's heard since he's been here. But a 20-year-old kid is not going to use those words unless they believe that's what it is. And that's why I feel like we're doing the right stuff, even though it may not necessarily turn into wins.